some tour groups. And one person in particular who gave us an excellent tour of Normandy. So again, there's really no connection with the person. We're not getting any money for mentioning that. We lived in Milan, Italy, from '96 to 2000, and so we developed friendships that we still have to this day, and we're able to visit almost every year, either professionally or for personal trips. And except for the COVID time, 2020, I think is the only year that we didn't go
But I
back
think it
there.
was 2 years we didn't go.
Yeah, 2 years. So
Everything was shut down.
So you'll see it kind of revolves around Lugano, Switzerland. And that's kind of where, when we go back, we have a friend there. He always puts us up. In fact, he flips houses there. And we use that as a base of operation. So on this trip, we looked at the logistics, and we decided to start in Paris first, then go to Normandy. And then from there, we went up to Zurich by train, went back to Paris for one day, one overnight, again, for the logistics, so we didn't have to be on like an 8-9 hour train ride. Then we went to Zurich, and then from Zurich to Lugano, which is right here. So we'll have a blow up with that, and we'll talk a little bit more about that area. But so we're going to start off by the pre-trip prep and what we did for that. And then of course it's COVID. Of course now everything is kind of getting back to normal. So we'll still touch on that. There's some interesting things there between France and how it was different in France as opposed to going into Switzerland. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and the online research. So we spent a good amount of time online. There were some great YouTube videos about apps, and actually there was a very good YouTube. We haven't been to Paris Airport in a while. This guy did a great job of, hey, if you come off the American Airlines, here's the terminal, and he basically just walks right through it, the whole thing, and he gives you a choice of trains, and you know, the fast train going into Gare Lyon, or if you're just going to get on the regular subway system, and the timing of it. So some great YouTube videos that kind of just visually give you through, which were a great help, because when you come off the plane, boom, there it is. And you can see exactly where you're going to go. So we stayed a few days in Paris. Then we went, from there we did a Versailles trip. We'll talk about that in a little bit of detail. And then from there to Normandy. Normandy, back to France one night, just for the logistics of it, as I mentioned. We'll also touch on Italy, the surrounding areas of Lugano, Switzerland. Because as you'll see, when we get onto there, we'll have a map, but it kind of shows you how Ticino, that canton, the Italian-speaking canton of Switzerland, kind of comes down like this, and then there's Como and Milan. But on either side of it is Italy. So there's a lot of interesting things to do, places to see, bike rides, and restaurants. So we'll get into that. So one of the things we came up with is an app called City Mapper. And you know, as it mentions here, it's a great app, and it works really anywhere. It even works in the States. And it aggregates all the transportation options. It's really great. So if you're on a Wi-Fi, that's fine, but you'll probably need data access if you want to, you know, have the thing go live. And what I mean by live is it tells you, for instance, when we left the hotel, the closest metro station, how long the walk is, what the next train will be, and then how long it'll be to the next stop, ultimately your ultimate destination. So it's an excellent map. Again, it works here as well. It does it compares the prices for Uber or Black Cat, right?
Just a quick question.
Yeah.
Is it disrespectful to take pictures of
No.
yourself? Is it just something
It's
you
because
have?
if she videos it, it's the same thing,
Okay.
so,
Just wanted to-
not at all.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, by all means, go ahead. So the other two apps that we used was Swiss Rail Pass, that's this one, and then the French Rail Pass. So coming back from Normandy, you know, again, you have right there, it's all, they give you the barcode and the, oh gosh, what am I thinking of,
The QR code.
the QR code, thank you. So, and very convenient, you didn't have to wait in line, any of the station lines, and it worked well. So in transitions well, because when we went from Normandy to Paris on the French line, we also took the French TGV to Zurich. And then, we were able to do all of that on the French app. And then on the Swiss app, we did Zurich to Lugano. So the Swiss trains.
Except we didn't take the train back from Normandy, that's another story.
Yeah. I'll explain that one. So anyway, all those apps worked very well for us. We found them to be very good.
Can I ask you a question about the trains?
Yep.
So you did a lot of train travel
Yeah.
when you were there. Did you feel safe doing that? Because we've had people tell us, don't take the trains, it's not safe.
Yeah.
What?
Well,
Yeah,
well-
Wait, in which countries though?
that's what Derek told us.
Yeah,
He
but
said
you're
everywhere.
referring to COVID? Because
No,
of-
he was talking about people stealing your belongings and you've got to,
Oh.
everything's so close to you and,
No, we felt safe.
Okay,
Especially on
that's what I
like the
wanted to hear.
TGV and those long distance trains, they're comfortable. There's, you got plenty of space.
okay.
Paris Metro, I mean, we were more worried about the COVID piece of it.
Okay.
But again, having done the research and having people over there that we know, they gave us the on-the-ground feedback to say, it's fine.
Okay.
There aren't really any breakouts here. And I'll tell you, it was, when we were there, Saturday night Paris was like, oh my God, it was crowded, The metro was crowded. And we only took it, only a few times when it was super crowded, where it really didn't feel comfortable, But the one time was Saturday night, and everybody was out. And it was funny, this guy came in with a group of 4 or 5, and they were making the announcements about keep your distance, have your mask on. So he kind of mimicked the thing in French saying, please keep your distance, which was a joke because everybody is right on top of each other. It was funny. But again, we didn't just, in a flippant kind of way, say, we're going to go, forget. Did research with friends that we had there who were hooked up with medical folks saying, you know what, you're fine, just as long as you're vaccinated, you can travel about. So I'm going to touch on this. This was the Swiss certificate. So everywhere that we went in France, they accepted the CDC card. You just show it to them. They were checking at the door for restaurants, public places, museums, but they accepted the CDC card, but not in Switzerland. So when we got off in Zurich, they have pharmacies right in the train station there and in the airport. So I went in the pharmacy and kind of asked them about it, showed them the card, and I think it was 60 francs.
Yeah.
60 francs for each of
Yeah, it
us.
was it.
She basically uploaded it in the Swiss system, because if you go to their site, it's a little bit confusing. This is from their site, and it talks about EU, and it kind of centers around there, so it was a little confusing. But at the pharmacy, they explained it very well. So the other thing, and this is about pharmacies in general in Europe, Italy, France, Spain, that they usually have PA level folks, physician assistant level folks, and sometimes even doctors, so that if you're not feeling well, you can go there and they can give you a quick
They can
review
prescribe an antibiotic.
and prescribe an antibiotic. Yeah. So something good to know about
So
them.
you had to have the PCR test going into Switzerland, and then when you were going to fly back, you had to have another PCR test?
So going into France, you didn't need anything. when we went into Switzerland,
It was, no, we just had to show,
you
get the
just had
card
to show the
uploaded,
COVID
the
card.
COVID card.
Okay.
Then the pharmacy person verified it, then she uploaded it into,
Okay,
We had to get something, we had to get a test before we came back
yeah,
here.
came back.
right, right, because
And
that's
I
supposed to be
don't
the
think
hard
Yeah.
copy.
that's still in effect.
I believe
Not-
that.
But
yeah,
in
is it?
Europe,
Yeah,
you don't
not
need a
sure
test
right
to
now.
go in, not even London, like England now.
So this last thing, this is an app too. You can download this Swiss COVID app and certificate, but we kept a hard copy too.
Yeah, you
And,
needed the, yeah.
yeah, so we had that too, but that worked well. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
came back in New York City, it worked when they were still checking. I used that app and it worked here, so.
Yeah, so if they still require you to have a test before you come back in the United States, definitely have all the hard copies when you go to check in for your flight, because they didn't want to see the COVID thing, like the online information. They wanted to see those papers.
Yeah, yeah, and just as another aside, it's good to have copies, well, hard copies of your passport too, because if it does get lost or stolen, it's a lot easier and quicker when you go to the embassy or consulate to get your replacement.
Yeah.
Okay, museum, Musée d'Orsay.
Oh, okay. Oh, so what we did was when we got to Paris, we were staying in a Marriott, and they were sending me information how you can set up all these things. So we got this museum package where you got, you could go in so many museums, and you can also get like videos of the museums. And so we decided to go to Musée d'Orsay, and that was an old train station until like 1933. And it served like southern France, southwest France. So then in 1933 or so, they decided to close it because the platforms were too short, and it was just closed and they weren't using it. And then sometime, I think it was, let's see, so 1939 they closed it, and then in 1977 they decided that they were going to turn it into a museum. So it's really it's the second most visited museum in Paris, and it's really a beautiful museum. They have all these clocks that they kept from the train station inside and out, and see, that's up on the second floor. And that's how it looked when it had trains in there. So it's all Impressionist art, and you can see all these Renoirs and just all these paintings that you never thought you would see there. So it's well worth going to. It's on the Seine, and we just, after we went there, we just like walked around because it's just beautiful there.
Yeah.
So,
And again, they check your COVID
yeah.
certificate at the door, and you had to wear a mask and all that. So, so that's Musée d'Orsay. So the next stop is, so we were there, what, 2 days, 3 days, and then before we left for Normandy. So on the second day, we went to Versailles. So same thing, you
Yeah, I
found
found this
the,
bike tour. So our son had been to Versailles before, and he said, oh, the grounds are so huge, there's no way you can see them all. So I saw this bike tour, and I'm like, okay, perfect, we'll do a bike tour. We saw all the grounds, and then it was a full day. We left from Paris, took the train, picked up bikes, stopped at the market. We bought like food for a picnic lunch on the grounds. Then we went around the grounds, and it's like Petit Trianon and like all these different things on there, on the grounds.
right, so it was
And then, and stopped for a picnic. We saw all the fountains. They only put the fountains on twice a day, and we were lucky they were on when we were there. And it was actually really cold there, much colder than Paris. So if you decide to go to Versailles, you always need to bring a jacket. For some reason, it's always really windy and chilly there. And then at the end, they took us to the museum, to the palace, and we went in, and that we did ourselves.
Yeah, so
So,
we actually met at one of the, was it Gare Lyon? At the
Yeah.
train station. And that's where the group met. It was early in the morning, and she had the tickets for us. And then we jumped on the regional train there to Versailles. That's about, I don't know, 40 minutes,
Yeah,
30
it
minutes
wasn't
or
that
so.
long.
And then from there, we went to get the bikes. And then we did the bike tour of the outside. And she took us to a market, and that's where we bought cheese, wine, and to have a picnic right out there on the, out there on the grounds. We picked a spot. But it is huge. And then, you know, she explained everything at the original residence of Louis the, well, there was 4th, 5th, and 16th, no, 13th, 14th, 15th, I think, was for the King Louis that she covered in this. And she explained each one, very, very descriptive, very knowledgeable. So under Louis the 14th, the residence was transformed to an immense complex, stylized after French and English gardens. And the apartments of Queen Marie Antoinette are there. So, you know, the interior was just enormous. That was another, by the time we got there, we did the day tour. This was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We were tired.
yeah,
You
because
know.
I think we met them like 8 o'clock.
Yeah, it was early, you know, it was an early time.
It was a long day.
But it was definitely well worth it, and all encompassing. And having her and this company do the logistics certainly saved us a lot of time. So Merole mentioned Petit Trianon, and it's funny because where we lived in Pennsylvania, this subdevelopment was called Trianon. We really never knew until where it came from, although the architecture was based French, a French chateau.
Yeah.
So here, it's neoclassical style chateau located on the grounds of Versailles. So this is King Louis V of France, who constructed it, and it was used as a retreat. And it was built on the site of the Botanical Gardens. So again, it's